Ray, since I've heard you mention this guy countless times over the last 4 or 5 months, I know you like the Eagles selection at number 10 overall, Devonta Smith. What makes you so sure he'll succeed as a pro?
Just watching him play over a period of time. I think he's a very unique, very special player. Everybody's going to get focused on his size and the fact that he's 160 some odd pounds. But anybody's watched him play week after week after week with Alabama in that schedule against the best, highest level of competition in college football. You see that nobody can slow this guy down. Nobody can stop him. He is just a very rare kind of player. I think that, if there were ever any questions about him, he certainly answered them this year coming into the season, because the guys who were on the team with him last year, the receivers that were on the team with him last year, Henry Ruggs and Jerry Jeudy, left. They were gone. So coming into this year, the receiving core consisted of Jalen Waddle and Devonta Smith. And a couple games into the season, Waddle goes down. And now all of a sudden, he's the last man standing. And in the rest of their schedule, playing against really good teams and really good competition, these teams had really just one guy to concentrate on. And believe me, they tried everything to stop him. They couldn't do it. He went through the season, never missed a game, and caught 117 balls for over 1,800 yards and 23 touchdowns. And then he got to the championship game. He scored 3 touchdowns in the first half. I just think that he's got it. Whatever it is, he's got it. And I felt that for a long time. And he was always talking with Glenn Macdowell every weekend during the season. I would keep bringing him up. They'd say, boy, I watched Alabama again last night, and I watched this kid number 6, and boy, would he look good in an Eagles uniform. Mm-hmm. Never knowing that possibility really happened or exist. And here it was, and it had to do a little bit of fancy footwork on the part of Howie Roseman and the Eagles front office, but they did it. They traded up, they traded down, then they traded up, and had to jump ahead of the Giants, because the Giants were prepared, guarantee the Giants were going to take him at 11. They had to get up ahead of the Giants. They did. And I think they got themselves a difference maker in Devonta Smith. I think he's a guy that's going to excite these fans and help the Eagles get back on track.
Interesting, Ray. You started to mention there how the Eagles, strange bedfellows, I guess, when you jump in bed with the Cowboys so that you can jump the Giants. Pretty unusual maneuvers right there. And I guess Dallas still got their guy. The Eagles got their guy, and the Giants reacted well and made out well in their trade as well.
Well, yeah, actually, the Eagles owe a big debt of gratitude to the Denver Broncos. It's, they should have. I hope Jeff Lurie and Howie Roseman sent a big fruit basket out to John Elway, because at number 9, the Denver Broncos did the Eagles a big favor. And the night before the draft, the Denver Broncos made a trade to bring Teddy Bridgewater to Denver. And I think most Eagles fans probably heard that and said, yeah, so what? Well, it's a big so what when you think about what it did for the Eagles. Because if the Denver Broncos hadn't acquired Teddy Bridgewater, I guarantee you at number 9, they would have taken Justin Fields. And if they take Justin Fields at 9, then the Dallas Cowboys are taking Patrick Surtain, and then the New York Giants are taking Devonta Smith, and all of a sudden the Eagles are sitting there at 12 saying, But I mean, just because it all just kind of fell for him, and look, sometimes you got to be a little lucky. Sometimes you got to be a little lucky on the field and off the field, and the Eagles were really lucky in that situation, because if they hadn't made the Bridgewater trade, they would have taken Fields. And then the Cowboys would have gone Surtain, Giants would have gone Devonta Smith, and I have no idea what the Eagles would have done, but they would have been in a tough spot, because Surtain would have been gone, J.C. Horn would have been gone, Waddle would have been gone, Chase would have been gone, and now Smith would have been gone. The Eagles would have been in a really tough spot at 12, but turned out that didn't happen, and they wind up coming out of it with a young guy that I think has a chance to be a superstar.
Well, Ray, they're going to have to get lucky now with their second pick. And by that, I mean good health. There's been a lot of discussion about the 37th overall pick, another Bama guy who's apparently a terrific center and guard when he's healthy. But as you know, injuries to his knee, injuries to his ankles. Was it a mistake to take Landon Dickerson at number 37 overall?
I don't know. The answer on that lies down the road. We'll see. I wouldn't have done it. And I say that as someone who really likes the player. As I said, I watched Alabama all year. Saw a ton of Devonta Smith, so I also saw Landon Dickerson, and he's very good. I mean, when he's playing and he's healthy, he's really good. He started his college career at Florida State, played tackle and guard there. Came to Alabama, they moved him to center, and he was really good. He won the Remington Trophy this year as the best center in college football. Justly so. I mean, he was. But the injury thing really bothers me, really worries me. I mean, he's had surgery on both knees, and he's had surgery on both ankles. And you're talking about a man who's 6'6" and 330 pounds. And it's my experience that the guys that get hurt multiple times in college don't get well when they come to the NFL. It usually works the other way. So the fact that this guy finished 4 college seasons on crutches, to me is very worrisome. Mm-hmm. And everybody's talking and focusing on the knee surgeries, the ACL surgeries on both knees, which is no small matter. But I'm just as concerned, if not more so, with the ankle injuries, because I mean, you look at Lane Johnson. It's ankle injuries that have hampered him the last couple of years, and he really hasn't been the same player. They performed 3 ankle surgeries on him, and they still haven't gotten right. So this guy has two bad ankles and 2 bad knees. It's kind of amazing that he's been as good as he was this year for Alabama, given all the stuff he's had to overcome. And he's a very skilled guy, very tough, very strong, a real powerful player, and has a real command of what's happening in the line in terms of all the things that a center has to do in terms of quarterbacking, what happens up front. He's really good at all that stuff. I like everything about him except his x-rays. And, if he can come into the NFL and be healthy, he will be a fine player here. I mean, Jason Kelce may have 1 more year left, probably. He will almost certainly be that next guy. But until then, I don't expect him to sit on the bench. I mean, if he comes in this year and Kelce's still playing at center, he's too good not to be on the field. I mean, he'll play one of the guard positions. He'll play somewhere because he's that good. But you just hope that, he's able to make it through. I really like him as a player, but to me, the risk factor was just too great. I would have taken Christian Barmore, the defensive tackle, also from Alabama. I saw what he did in the Notre Dame game and the Ohio State game, the 2 playoff games, where to me, he was the best defensive player on the field. He was the defensive MVP, in fact, in the championship game. And I just thought, the Eagles obviously wanted to upgrade their defensive line because in this draft, they kept going back to the defensive line round after round after round. Well, they had a chance, in my view, at number 37 to get the best defensive tackle on the board. And they chose to pass on it. So if it had been me, I would have taken Christian Barmore. But the Eagles take Landon Dickerson, and now we'll just wait to see if he can stay on the field. If he can stay on the field, he's a good player.
Well, Ray, you kind of answered part of my question that I was going to ask you between Landon Dickerson and Milton Williams. Do you think those picks were more towards the future rather than now? I guess you kind of think that Dickerson's going to be on the field. But going back to that press conference, it still irritates me that I mention every week on this show where they didn't use the word rebuild, but they kind of said rebuild mode. Do you think these are more down the road picks, maybe next year, not quite as much expectation this year?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I think that to be honest, I think they recognize that they are in a rebuild mode. But they're in a rebuild mode in a rebuilding division. I mean, none of the teams in this division are any good. So there's really no reason for them to just say, you know what, we can't win anything this year. Let's just let's just think down the road. Let's just stockpile draft picks, and we're gonna finish last. We're not as good as these other teams. Well, in other divisions that may be true, but not in this one. I mean, this division is still, I'll be kind and say mediocre. So, no, I think they're viewing it as, in reality, yes, are we rebuilding? Yeah, we are. But there's no reason to think in this division that we can't rebuild and win at the same time. And I think it's sometimes it's hard to serve two masters like that. But I think that's kind of the position the Eagles find themselves in, and I think that's their strategy here. And taking a guy like Barmore, I think, would have been that anyway. I mean, to me, Barmore is, when I watch him play, and I will admit that he's a little bit of an in and out kind of guy. He's a little inconsistent week to week. There's some weeks that he's a dominating player, and then there's other weeks where you kind of don't even notice him. I wish his motor ran at the same level every single week. It doesn't really. But when he's good and he's on his game, he's really good. And when he's really good, what he reminds me of is what Fletcher Cox was in college. I mean, he's got the same kind of size, he's got the same kind of width, the same kind of strength and power. Fletcher Cox is right now at a point in his career where, how many years does he have left? So if they had brought Barmore in here, for now, he could have played with Cox. And then whenever Fletcher, and this is probably his last contract, realistically, when it's over for him, I think that he has the kind of skills, this kind of size and the kind of skills to step right in and be the next Fletcher Cox. So, yeah, I mean, you can build to win now while still building for the future. I mean, ideally, I think that's what the Eagles are trying to do.
Well, Ray, I know you like Smith, and while they went heavy on defense in the draft, they did take another offensive guy that you like, from what I understand, in the 5th round, Kenneth Gainwell. Great name, by the way, for a running back, Gainwell, guy out of Memphis. What do you like about him?
I really like him, Chet. He's a smallish guy, about 5'9", 205 or thereabouts, but plays and runs with a lot of power. Very smart, very elusive. And I think very often coaches will, when they're evaluating, scouting draft picks, future players, they'll try to get a mental picture in their mind of, this guy will be the guy, this guy that I coached before. I'm looking for the next, this guy. And anybody that saw the Indianapolis Colts the last few years, you saw they had a little running back named Nyheim Hines, who was very effective. I mean, they used him a lot as sort of the change-up back, but they used him very well, and he was really effective. I mean, last year, they kind of had a really nice 1-2 punch with Jonathan Taylor being the bigger, more powerful runner, and Hines being the sort of scooter, scat back kind of guy who also caught the ball out of the backfield. And I think Nick Sirianni sees Gainwell as the new Nyheim Hines, and I think it's pretty accurate. I think that's what he's going to be. He runs the ball really well. He's very smart. He doesn't blow assignments. He always sees the field exactly right. The thing he does best is catch the football. At Memphis, they used to use. They very often had a lot of 5 receiver sets. They like to play that way. So sometimes he'd be in the backfield, but very often they'd have him split out almost like another wide receiver. And he was very good at doing that. So it's not just a matter that he's one of these guys who will just catch checkdowns and screen passes. I mean, this is a guy that you can put in the slot or put out wide and have him run a route like a wide receiver. And he knows how to do that, and he catches the ball. He didn't play this year. He took the year off because of COVID, which you understand when you realize what happened with his family. He lost 4 family members to COVID. Mm-hmm. So he had a lot more going on in his life than football this year. But he'll come back this year. And the last full season that he played, I mean, he had over 2,000 total yards. So I think that you look at him, you look at his skill set, and what I kind of think the Sirianni offense is going to be, to me, it looks like a real nice fit.
Well, Ray, always interested in Penn State players. Saquon Barkley, of course, ended up with the Giants. Now Micah Parsons ends up with the Cowboys. How did you like Micah Parsons, and where did you have him slotted in your draft?
Between 10 and 15. I thought that was where he was going to go, and that is where he went. Yeah, he's very, very talented player. I mean, you might say, in terms of physical ability, he might have been the best all-around defensive player in the draft. When you watched him, I mean, Surtain was awfully good, but in terms of the guys who played in the front seven, yeah, he was the best player up there, I thought. Really explosive, really versatile. He's a guy I think can play pretty much any linebacker spot. He can play inside. He can also play on the edge. He's good against the run, but he's really good rushing the passer. He can cover. I mean, just about anything you want a linebacker to do, he can do. The only questions about him are the questions about his attitude off the field, all those kinds of things. That's followed him from all through college, that he's selfish, that he's not a good team guy, has problems with his coaches, wants to freelance, wants to do what he wants to do. If he has that kind of an attitude, then he's going to be butting heads with his coaches, and he won't be the kind of player he's capable of being. But if he kind of matures, and I've seen guys do that, come into the NFL and different set of circumstances, bigger challenge, different kind of coaching, they kind of grow up, and if he can do that and just settle in and play football, he's got every tool you could imagine or want in a linebacker. And if he comes in here and really locks in, he will improve that Cowboys defense like day one.